joining the Glow Up Social Girls. It's such an honor to have you on. We have so much in common. We're both Latinas. We both grew up in a Dominican household where the Dominican culture was kept very alive. So we're just going to dive right in. You are an influencer who started off with something completely different and then you pivot into making these funny videos of just your childhood, what you knew all along. So let's just dive right in. Take us on this journey.
Hey, Cynthia, girl. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I've been super excited to be here for weeks, like
Oh,
just talking
thank
about it.
you.
But because, we got to continue to tell our story, right?
Yes.
In different platforms and stuff. So when I started, I actually started doing hair content about 4 years ago. And because everybody always asked me about my hair and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, well, let me show people what I do with my hair and all this stuff, right? And then I noticed when I started doing my research of how to grow my platform and how to grow a community, it was kind of like, you have to show your personality. You have to show who you are. And it was like that moment of, well, who am I? Who am I? Am I just this curly girl? And it was like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I wanted to look cute all the time. You want to have your hair done, makeup done, looking out here, having this aesthetic of like always looking pretty. And I was like, well, that's not always me. So I was like, let me figure this out. Let me see how I'm going to show my personality. And then I went to Dollar Tree. And Dollar Tree always gets you guys.
I
This
know.
was when it was only $1 too.
I think now we're at like 5, right?
Right? Girl. It's like Dollar Tree and beyond at this point. So I went to Dollar Tree and I saw the glasses that I wear in my videos. And I told my husband, I said, do you think I should get these and start doing like Latina moms be like? And he's like, just try it. Like, try it out. You never know. Right? And I was like, I think I would make it so funny. And like, I would just imitate like my mom, my aunts, grandma, cousins, everybody. And he's like, yeah, try it out and see. So I went for it and I did it and I started doing I started mixing it in. Like I kept doing hair content and then speaking in my hair videos because I was like, well, I want people to see who I am. And then I started doing the Latina Mom video. And then one of my videos just blew up. The ones like washing the panties, which is like pinned on my page because I was like, this is my forever video. This is how I became who I became.
Yeah.
And it just blew up. And from there, I was like, oh, this is what people want. And I was like, it makes sense because I know this. I know this. This is not me. I'm playing a character, but this is my childhood. This is my life. This is what I grew up with in a sense. And then now I also intertwine like the daughter. I do have her speak in English, but I do speak Spanish to my mom most of the time in general. But I'm like, kids nowadays barely speak Spanish. So I'm like, let me make it more pleasing for both. Because I want kids to also understand, like, your mom isn't the only one that's out here crazy. Our
Yes.
moms are crazy.
Yes, I love it. And that's amazing how when you show up as yourself, not copying anyone, not trying to see like what's the new trend so I can jump on that trend. You just showed up as yourself, as what you knew growing up with a Dominican mom, and you just blew up because that's what people get attracted to, just you being authentic and your true self. So that's amazing. I love your videos. I started following you about 2 years ago, and the amount of videos that I have sent to my cousins, and we just laugh and we can relate because like you, we grew up with like a mom that would make all these like funny jokes. And by the way, my mom was the one that had those same
Mhm.
glasses, and she kept the sticker on them. Like she would go to CVS and like try on a whole bunch of glasses, and I'm like, Mom, why don't you just go to the eye doctor and get the right one with the right prescription? And she's like, no, no, estos son más barato. These are cheaper.
Oh, girl, now that you say that, you know what my parents do? They'll be like, and it's funny because I got the glasses here. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, let me grab them. My parents will be like, toma, tú no puedes ver bien, toma lo
Yeah.
mío. And it's like, no, you can't just be like, here's mine,
Yeah.
so you could read the paper. And I was like, so
Yeah.
it's just so funny.
Yeah, my mom does that. Or she'll try to take mine because I wear glasses. She'll be like, déjame ver, que se me olvidó.
Uh-huh.
Like, let me see, because I forgot my glasses. I'm like, Mom, my prescription is probably way stronger than yours.
And then she'll be like, no, yo veo bien with
Yeah,
the with the glass.
I love that. That's
That
so
is so
funny.
funny.
Yeah. So tell me about your childhood because I grew up the same way in a Dominican household. We can only speak Spanish in the house. But we both grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in the good side, quote unquote, of the Bronx. And I always felt like I just lived two different worlds because I felt like I was the only Latina. I probably was the only Latina. There was probably two or three other people, and there wasn't much of a diversity. So then when I would come home, I just felt like I lived two different worlds. So did you feel that way? Just how was it growing up?
Yeah, so I was like you. I grew up in the Bronx as well, and in a nice
Yeah.
neighborhood. I grew up in Bronx Neck, where it was like mostly Italians. It was a different community, so it was like one of those things. I agree. Like you're driving up to your house. I mean, anybody. I think all Latinos that drive up to their house, even in a bad neighborhood, bájame la música,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, no, I'm not gonna lower the music. Like nobody could hear it. So it was like, no, you couldn't talk loud. Like even outside the house, it was like, well, let's go inside and stop talking loud outside, type of thing. And I grew up in a house as well, so it was like one of those things that was like los riquitos, not riquito, no, but
Yeah.
yeah. Like in high school, I was like you, I didn't really have Dominican friends like that. Like most of my friends were black. I did have like some Puerto Rican friends and stuff, and it was just a lot different. The Dominican group, I didn't really hang out with them. I don't even know if they knew at the time that I was Dominican, just because I think they knew after a while because then one of them was like friends with my brother, and it was like that. But it was like even that I was like still not a part of the crew. And now it's like different because like for me, I didn't miss out on it though. Cause like my friends were my cousins, like
Yeah,
most,
same.
like most Dominicans, right?
Yeah.
My mom is one of 12 and I have so many cousins. I have so many cousins that I could just be with them and I didn't have that void of not being with a group of Dominican friends in a sense.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
one of my besties is my cousin and she's Dominican and I'm like,
Yeah.
so it's a lot different.
Yeah. Do you consider her your sister? Because my cousin, who I'm very close to, I sometimes introduce her as my sister just because that's just like the norm for us. So someone would be like, wait, like someone that knows me will say, wait, that's your sister? I had no idea that you had a sister. And then, like, to try to explain that, like, no, no, we're not really sisters, but we grew up together. So it's like
Yeah.
we're sisters.
No, just one, her and I look completely different. And it's so funny because she looks like my brother and I look like her brother. So it's
Oh,
so
that's so
funny
funny.
because she's like Blanquita and one of my brothers, he's Blanquito. So they look alike. And then her brother's Morenito like me and so am I. So, but no, most of the time people be like, if we even say we're cousins, they'd be like, cousins? Because we don't look alike. You sure? Like, how are y'all related? And it's like, yeah, like my mom and her dad are siblings, you know?
Right.
So, but no, but I mean, everybody knows, or we would always be with each other. And it's funny because it would come up like, Erica, isn't this your cousin? Or vice versa, Jennifer, isn't that your cousin? So it was like one of those things that everybody knew that we were cousins, but it was like we look completely different. So, and I don't have a sister, but she's literally my sister.
Yeah, yeah, same. I have a
Yeah.
stepsister, which I didn't grow up with. So
Oh,
for
yeah.
me, that was my cousin was like my sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then did you ever try to like hide your culture? Because I know I did that a few times, especially when I was younger. I think we spoke about this. For me, the hair was a big thing. I also have very curly hair, and that's something my mom every Saturday, it was like, we're going to the salon, you're getting a perm, and you're straightening your hair because if your hair was curly, it was a mess, tú tienes un pajón, and it was very unacceptable. So even throughout like high school and college, I just kept on straightening my hair and doing perms and different things because I didn't want to show that my hair was curly. I almost felt like ashamed to show my curly hair.
Yeah. I was like in between about it because I felt like I was like rebellious sometimes because I was the only girl and I always like um, tend to want to do my own thing. But it was like that every single Saturday in the salon. I with your
Yes.
neck hurting because saloneras would be like pulling your hair. And yeah, I know who y'all are. Yeah, I know there's a group of y'all
Oh
that
yeah,
do
we
this.
got strong necks.
Our necks are really, really strong. But yeah, thinking about like trying to act like like you weren't a part of the culture sometimes when you were outside of your house. Growing up, I could see I would tell people that I was something else instead of Dominican, not because I was ashamed of being Dominican, just because I'm like, why are you asking me type thing,
Mm,
right? Can't you tell that I'm Dominican? Like
right.
that, like I felt that way, right? So I would be like one day I could be, Jamaican and Puerto Rican, like that. Like I would just say the most random things. And like, cause I'm like, why you asking me? I look Dominican. Like, what do you mean? In my
Right.
head, right? But I'm thinking because that's all I grew up with. And it's funny, as time went on, I was like, oh, actually, when I actually moved to California, it was a culture shock for me. Because when I
Mm,
moved out there, it was like, tú no eres Latina type of thing. ¿Y a dónde aprendiste español? And it's like, what do you mean? I learned Spanish the same way you learned Spanish.
right.
Spanish
Yeah.
is my first language. So it was like one of those things. But then I also noticed that well, I don't know if you did this, but I try to perfect my English, but I still,
Mm,
and it's like my accent is still there. And then as a kid, you're trying to perfect it. Or as you're getting older, you're still trying to perfect it. And you're like, forget this. I speak two languages. How many
yeah.
languages you speak?
Yeah.
Right?
I did the same thing too. I remember graduating college. Then I moved to Connecticut and I landed my first job ever, Ernst and Young. For those in the accounting world, that's like a very well known firm. And everyone spoke just so well, like the English. And then here I was, Latina from the Bronx. You know, we say coffee, we say sandwich, water. And I was like, I remember just being so embarrassed. I was like, I feel so ghetto. Like I can't even say like these simple words. I remember that feeling when I was like at my first job ever. And everyone was very well suited with their nice iron suit. And then I remember just feeling so out of place, like I did not belong in that table with everyone else.
like a Betty La Fea. That's how
Yes,
you feel.
yes,
That's how you
yes,
feel.
yeah.
It's funny because I now live in Georgia. I feel like I've been everywhere, but I now live in Georgia. And the other day I was ordering food, and I said, "Hey, my kids love hot dogs." So I was like, "Can I get a hot dog?" And he's like, "You want a hot?" Like he said it a different way. Whatever way they say it out here, that's the way he said it. And I was like, "Yeah, hot dog." And then he's like, "Okay." So then when I pulled up to the window, he's like, "You're not from here, huh?" And I was like, "No." And then he's like, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He's like, "I could tell." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "How you say hot dog?" And I was like, "Hot dog." Like,
Yeah,
I
hot
don't
dog.
know. Like, but I guess I pronounced it just a different, I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess it does sound different. But yeah, I have an accent and I'm like, I have a Bronx, Dominican girl accent and whatever. And I'm just like, that's who I am. So yeah, I
yeah,
try to perfect it, but now I let it go. I'm like, there's presentations that I do, and sometimes, because sometimes you think in Spanish, and you
yes,
gotta, because even though I've been speaking English most of my life, right, and Spanish is my first language. Sometimes you think in Spanish because you be like, I don't know, freca. Let's say you be like, mira esa freca, in
yeah,
your head, right? But like translating it in English is not the same. It's not the same
right,
effect.
right,
Mira,
yeah,
mira esa freca, ¿cómo ella me hizo eso? Like stuff like that. It's not
yeah,
the same effect. of like, oh, look at that fresh girl. Nah, it doesn't sound
It
the same.
doesn't, yeah, yeah.
It,
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, that same thing happens to me too. And yeah,
yeah,
I try to perfect it for a long time. Like at the beginning of my career, I try to
yeah.
perfect it. And then after a while, I was like that. I was just like, you know what? This is me. This is Cynthia. I grew up in the Bronx, Latina, Dominican, and that's it. This is the
You
mix
gotta be
that
like
you
just,
get.
yeah, you gotta be like, I'm Cynthia Martinez.
That's
Like,
right.
not Martinez, Martinez.
Yes.
Like my name, your name's on Moon. It's Luna type thing.
Oh, that's so funny. Did
Yeah.
you have a cultural shock when you moved to Georgia? Well, I know you said California for sure. And then from California, did you go to Georgia?
To Georgia. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think since I already had the culture shock in California, in Georgia, I was kind of like prepared. But it was
Mhm.
California because it was like Mexicans like telling me, and I was like, "What you mean? Hold up." You know, out here in Georgia is weird though because they'd be like, "Yeah," like people like to use the word exotic, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not an animal. I'm not
Right.
exotic.
Yeah.
I'm not like I mean I could be exotic, right? But I'm also it gives me animal, and I'm not
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So it was more that, or it was like, oh, she has an accent, like where's she from, or something like that, right? And
Mhm.
and now just be like, you know where Cardi B's from? That's where I'm from,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody knows Cardi B. So I'm like,
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I had a cultural shock when I moved to Connecticut. So I went from the Bronx to Connecticut, and I think my biggest cultural shock was there was no bodegas, like no
oh,
24 hours bodegas anywhere. So around like 6, 7, everything is closed. Like if you didn't get what you needed from the supermarket, sorry, next day.
yeah,
And the other thing was you have to drive everywhere. Like you need a car in Connecticut. And when I was in New York, I didn't have a car. I grew up in the Bronx. I took train, bus, transportation. Then I went to college in New York in Lexington. Didn't need a car either. So when I moved to Connecticut, I had a car, but I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that I can't walk to Starbucks to grab a coffee. Like I have to
mhm.
drive." So that was like a big shock for me. Just everything closing down super early and then you can't walk anywhere. Like you're in the middle of the woods.
Connecticut. My husband's from Connecticut, and
Oh,
when I
really?
went out there when I went out there the
Oh.
first time, I was like, I'm from the Bronx, whatever, blah blah blah. Girl, I'm like, Connecticut's kind of wild. Where he grew up is kind of wild, and I was like, oh no, I'm not leaving this house by myself. It was like that.
What part of
But
Connecticut is he from?
Bridgeport.
Oh, oh, Bridgeport.
Girl, I walked by myself a couple of blocks, and I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is
Bridgeport is like the Bronx.
Yeah,
It's
but girl,
just
nah.
like the
I was
Bronx.
like, I'm from. That's why I said that. I was like, I'm from the Bronx. You know, you see everything in the Bronx, and then it was like, no. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
I get it. The whole car thing. I had a car when I was like, before I moved to California. I actually bought a car because I was like, when I want to go grocery shopping, you know, as you start going up in your career, you're like, you need an apartment, a car, a this, a that,
Yeah.
and you just start building up or whatever. And then my parents, where I grew up in Throgsneck, the buses stopped running after a certain time. So I was like, I can't even visit them because I don't have a car. I got to call people or get a cab. And I was like, no, I'm not about to call it taxi, basically.
Un taxi.
So
Oh, and
yeah,
what does your mom think about this? What does she think about what you do? Is
she,
she excited or
she
is she like, ¿y qué es esto? What is this?
first, at first she was like whatever about it, and then now she'd be like, "Eso fue tan funny, no, yo hago eso mismo," or whatever, or she'd be like, "No, yo no lo hago así," because one of my videos recently went viral, and she's like, "Yo no soy así," and I was like, "Ma, I change it a little bit. I'm not gonna do it exactly how you do it or exactly
Right.
how Tia does it. Like I change it a little bit." She's like, "Oh, ya yo pensaba que me estabas relajando." I was like, "No." But no, she loves it. So I posted on Facebook so she could see it and so my whole family could see it. One of my aunts actually shares it every single time. I put something, but she loves it. She thinks it's so funny. A few people, and by coincidence, when I'm with her, this happens. So a few people have stopped me and asked me like, "Oh my God, are you Jennifer from Instagram? Jennifer Maria from Instagram?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And then my mom would be like, "Oh, pues tú eres famosa de verdad." And I'm like, "Yo te dije, yo te dije." It actually
Probably
happened
calling
recently.
her friends, like, "Oh my god, my daughter."
Oh, déjame decirte.
Yeah.
Déjame contar, comadre, mire. And then it's funny because one of my aunts, which is my mom's comadre, but she's my aunt, she'll be like, mira, te voy a decir este cuento, pero cópiamelo para video. And then she'll tell me the story and I'll be like, okay, I'll try to do something around it or whatever. But she's always
Oh,
like giving me pointers.
oh,
Cause
that's so
she's like, cause
good.
I'm doing this for my family, right? It's not only for me, it's for all of
Right.
them. It's
Yeah.
for, and like I always tell people, if people want to collab with me, even my own family members, like I'll sit there and collab with them, and do videos with them and whatever it is. Even my kids, sometimes they get in it. My husband, he's forced. He's,
He's forced. Yeah.
he signed his name on that paper, girl.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's such a good memory, like to have in the long run. Like, I know your kids now are too young to like fully understand what you're
Yeah,
doing. But as they get older, they're gonna be able to look back at all these videos
yeah.
of, you like mimicking their grandmother. Have you ever done a video with your mom? I don't think I've ever
No,
seen you
I did
guys.
one video and it was to promote this like blow dryer and she was like blowing and I was like, "Thank you, mom." And then we like embrace each other. But like her, so my mom could be a little shy on camera.
Okay.
And then she'd be like, "No, y el pintalabio, el pe ay, yo no me hice el pelo, espérate." And then it's like too much and I'm like, "Girl, we're not about to do 20 takes. We're doing 3 takes." Cuz even that day with the blow dryer, she's like, "Ay, se me olvidó el pintalabio." Going back for the red lipstick. Fuan, fuan.
Oh
And then
my
I'm like, "Está
god.
bien." Ay, espérate, que I went like this and now my double chin and now I'm like, "Girl."
Oh, that's
But
so
I
funny.
told her the other day, I was like, "Ma, vamos a un video." Cause she always walks around with a big purse. I'm like, "Vamos a un video. What you have in your purse?" And she's like, "Pues está bien, tú me avisas qué día." So we'll see. I'm
Oh,
gonna
that's
see.
awesome. Yeah, I would love to see that. Does she live
Yeah.
in Atlanta too?
She moved out here. Yeah, she moved
Oh,
out
that's
here
awesome.
2 years ago.
Oh,
So it's
that's
nice to have her
awesome.
here.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah. Grandmas are like a lifesaver,
Yeah.
especially when you have kids.
I know.
Yeah.
We didn't notice that because living in California, it was just us, and we would just figure it out. And then moving here, it was us at first, and then my husband has family here, so we would always ask his uncles or his aunts to take care of our kids. But then having my mom is like, "Well, come over the house and watch them here," versus like us having to lug kids in a car, take them somewhere, and then pick them up. You
Yeah.
know, so it's always nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And
So
then my
Jen,
dad, he's like one of my number one promoters out there. So if anybody knows my dad, he'd be promoting me. He'd be like, "Look, follow my daughter." I need to start giving him little cards so he
I
could like
know.
give it around to people.
Yeah, and I can just see him too, actually, like giving
Girl,
out
he's called
cards.
me. He's called me. Come nombre otra vez? And I'm like, Rayita Bajo, Jennifer Maria. And he'd be like, "Ven, te voy a poner la muchacha." And I'm like, "No," like some random person.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Our parents are like our biggest cheerleaders. Like
Oh,
they're
yeah.
so funny, but they're our biggest cheerleaders. Like on
Yep.
the low, they're our biggest cheerleaders. Like there's
Yep.
certain things. So I'm a full-time tax accountant, but I'm so creative and I do other things. I started this podcast during the pandemic. I was a doula for 2 years. So I've dabbled in a few different things. And every time I tell my mom, I can just see not disappointment, but I can just see her like, what is this new adventure that you're trying? Like, is it making you money? But I'm like, low key, she's my biggest cheerleader. But I know like the way she shows it, it might not come off the right way.
Because they don't know. They don't like. They know like being a doctor, an accountant,
Yeah.
someone that works at a bank, they know that, but they don't know the aspect of being creative. So that's
Right.
pretty awesome. But I
Yeah.
totally forgot that you're a certified doula because I
Yeah.
had two home births,
Yes.
um, one water birth, and then my last just a home birth, meaning basically on the bed.
Oh my God, that is, I'm
Yeah,
sure it was magical.
it was.
I had my son in a birthing center. I didn't have him at home. I wanted to, but my husband, we came to the middle ground of, okay, a birthing center, because my husband was like freaking out. I had a few miscarriages prior to that. So he was like a little
Yeah.
scared. So I was like, okay,
Mhm.
we'll do the birthing center. And it was a water birth. And it was like the most magical thing ever. And I think from that then sparked my interest into becoming a doula.
Yeah. Because they say accountants are boring, but I mean, look at us here.
I know, yeah, we're doing all
We're
these
here.
side
We're,
jobs.
it's so funny because my mom, she'll be like, if I do something, I was just on set with the baby to promote breastfeeding awareness, and she's like, "Y te pagaron," and she's whispering like, "Anyone's around? Nobody's around," and I'm like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Ah, no, pues está bien, porque tú no puedes hacer la cosa gratis." So
Yeah. Oh,
it's
they're
like,
so
it's like one
funny.
of those. And then
Yeah,
she's like whispering, but it's because she don't want the world to hear that I made
right.
money on the side or something.
Yeah, it's so funny. So what's next for you? I know you have is it a clothing line or a pajama line?
Yeah, so it's a sleepwear line, and I'm gonna branch out and do a couple of other things like some t-shirts, some stuff like that. Don't quote me, but I might have a t-shirt like I speak Latina mom. Don't quote me,
Oh,
but that might be
yes.
out there. We're working on it. We're trying to curate of how it's gonna look. My husband, he designs everything for me basically because he's super creative and he's a designer. So we're working on that and trying to figure out like the best t-shirts, cute t-shirts, and I think it'll be super dope because I speak Latina mom. It might be for larger. It's for my community in a sense. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah.
And beyond that, I mean Tyler Perry. You got a Latina mom here. You never
Yes,
know.
yeah. Yes.
He got Medea. I got the Latina mom. And she does have a name. I just don't really name her, but it's my grandmother's name, which is Mercedes. But I never say her name, but that is her name. That's who I embrace. My grandmother's no longer with us, but and everyone always said I looked like her growing up. So I was like, might as well name her Mercedes. So,
Yeah. Oh,
so
that's
yeah, I do want to make it. I want this character to be everywhere, right? Because she can be everywhere. She could be on somebody's TV screen, because that could be
yeah.
somebody's nanny, somebody's grandmother, and that's what I want. I was taking acting classes and then I got pregnant, so then I had to kind of stop, but I'll probably go back to take some
Oh.
classes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining. I had such an awesome time. We're going to end it with one question, which I like to say. I like to call this piece Spill the Tea. And I know we think about spill the tea like the gossip, but this is just one last question where you're going to leave us with like some words of wisdom. I'm going to look at my notes to make sure that I say it the right way. So, if there was one area where you can go back and give yourself more confident, which area would it be?
So I'm gonna go back to my 12-year-old self. My confidence was actually I wasn't confident about my voice. I know it sounds crazy, right? Because
Yeah,
that's what I
that's what you
use. I
do
use my
now.
voice. Yeah. So and this goes out to the bullies in a sense. Stop making fun of people. Like it's not cool. Like a 12-year-old girl could really be affected by
Mm,
a comment that you might say about her voice or by the way she looks or anything like that, right? So I will go back to my 12-year-old self and tell her, girl, speak out loud, keep
mm,
speaking, keep telling your story, and embrace who you are because this is who you are. You're this Dominican girl from the Bronx, and that's okay. And you're going to have an accent and continue to have an accent, and that's okay also. So
yeah.
and we do sound a little rough sometimes, and that's okay also.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, life goes on, and if that 12-year-old girl didn't build up that confidence, she wouldn't be here right now.
Mm, that's so good. That's awesome. I'm so
Yes.
glad you did build up that confidence because what you are doing is amazing. I think I said this
Thank you.
earlier. These videos that you make, they go very far and they make people laugh. And that's what we need in this world, especially today with all the craziness that's going on. So keep doing these videos because we love it. We need more people laughing. It's amazing what you're doing. And I just can't wait for your t-shirt to come out and then all other things. I just can't wait to see you keep growing and expanding.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you for having me. This is amazing. Having a chat with another Latina and
Yeah.
another creative Latina is amazing. And we need to keep building and keep on going because our voices need to be heard. Our stories need to be told. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love that for us. We're
Yeah.
here and we're not going nowhere.
That's right. I'm going to link all your social medias in the show notes. So for anyone that's listening, they can go ahead and follow you and get a good laugh because that's what your social media platform does. It gives everyone a good laugh.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
know it because we're here to be happy and laugh. That's what life is about.
Yes.
Thank
All
you for
right.
having me, Cynthia.
Of course. Thank you so much to my listeners.
Bye.